Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ellen Henry and I am a circus performer and a handstand coach. Today we are going to be covering how to improve your handstand endurance. You might be up to the stage where you are trying to hold your handstand for longer and you might find that you just don't have that shoulder strength, or you might be stuck at that point where you have the shoulder strength but you just don't know how to balance your handstand. I'm going to be covering this and more in today's video, trying to help you to hold your handstand for longer. So it doesn't matter which stage of your handstand journey you're at. You could be at the beginning and you just want to start to try and hold your handstand for longer, or you might be an intermediate. You have those foundations covered, but you might feel like you just can't push past a certain point of maybe like 10 seconds, 15, 30. This can be a really hard thing to try and improve and push past. Hopefully some of these tips in today's video will help you do just that. So number one is you want to make sure that you have your technique down pat, or at least your foundations for this, because when you are working on those foundations, or you've made sure that you've covered them and you really understand them and you are applying them to your practice, this is going to help you to hold your handstand for longer. A great example of this is when you have your arms too wide in your handstand. This makes you use so much more like muscle and effort to try and hold yourself up there compared to if your hands are underneath your shoulders. Now the reason for this and why it's so easy when your hands are there is because then you are stacking your bones, and it means you are going to be using less muscle and more of the correct technique that's going to be able to help you to hold your handstand up without using as much muscle compared to if your hands were super wide. Another great example within this technique is a banana back, which is super common. Now there's a bunch of ways that you can improve your banana back and try and eliminate it. I release a guide where I chat about a lot of common handstand problems and how to fix them and troubleshoot them. I'll leave the link down below so you can go check that out if you need that kind of help with that kind of thing. But the banana back can really affect being able to hold your hands because you're working so much harder against gravity. Your legs are arched over, your tummy is dropping out. It's just like lots of different forces from gravity pushing you down to the ground. Compared to when you're in a straight handstand, gravity is just pushing straight down through your body. Now, there are so many ways that you can try and work on your stacked shape. I do a lot of these kind of drills called activation drills that are really helpful for working on these foundations. I will leave the link up here or down in the description box below. So if you're having trouble with that, you can go and binge watch those videos or even check out that troubleshooting handstand guide. It has heaps of solutions to a lot of common handstand problems. Next up, another component that can affect your endurance is your wrist mobility. And within that range is also warming up your wrists. So it's really important that you have the mobility to be able to have your wrists in this position. And that kind of really comes down to how you warm up and how much handstands you've done. So if you're just a beginner, this might be an issue for you. Or if you're an intermediate, you might find that you have a bit of discomfort that might be stopping you from getting that endurance. To help this, it is really important that you are warming up your wrists and that you're also working on your wrist mobility. This will really help in terms of that discomfort and also that mobility to hold yourself up there. I do have a really good warm-up that you can go and try if you are struggling for wrist warm-ups before your handstand. And one of my favorite wrist exercises is wrist push-ups. So you can either start in a box and then move your feet out to progress it, and you are just hinging at that bottom knuckle and slowly controlling lifting up and down. This is great for also strengthening your wrists. Another important aspect, especially if you are new to handstands or you are still a beginner, is to make sure that you have progressed appropriately. So you've started off with working on those foundations as I've talked about, and then you've moved on to building up your strength. If you skip this stage of trying to build up your shoulder strength and you're trying to balance your handstand and you just find that you are too weak in your shoulders, you need to make sure you are doing drills that are helping to strengthen your shoulders before you're like taking jumps onto things that you might not be ready for. Some of the great foundations to be working on is things like froggies, the tuck box assisted holds. I will also link a video up here of some beginner strengthening drills so that you can go and make sure that you are fully prepared and ready before you're moving on to the next step. Something that comes into play of progressing before you're ready is making sure that you can balance. So those froggy drills that I was just showing you, those are great for trying to start to understand that balance and how to grip the ground with your hands. This is also the part of a handstand that most people will struggle with. So really take your time, work on the balancing drills. I will leave a video up here once again that covers all of these kind of like balancing drills and ideas and things that will hopefully get you to start understanding that balance, but also doing it as well. That is a huge component of being able to hold your handstand for a long time. Something that also comes into play with balancing our handstand is walking. Now, walking when you're working on walking is super helpful, but if you are trying to learn how to hold your handstand, improve your endurance, we don't want to be walking. So when you're practicing these in a free hold, you want to make sure that as soon as you take a step, you come down. Start again, reset. Walking is not going to help you. Often, if you're at that stage where you're still sort of a beginner, maybe starting to become a bit more of an intermediate, is you'll lose your technique a little bit when you start to walk. So we want to make sure that we come down and reset. Okay, and now that we've gotten that covered, and now we're going to get into the actual nitty-gritty and the things you're going to do to improve your endurance. So one of the ways is by actually working on pushing how long you can hold that handstand for until you get into that point of fatigue and you need to come down. And there's two ways of doing this. There's either doing free holds or holding against the wall. Now, both of these can be used either on their own or in combination, depending on where you're at. So something this really comes down to is your balance, but not only your balance, but your forearm fatigue, depending on how hard you grip the ground. Now, this is something that I struggle with. I tend to grip the ground really hard, and it makes my forearms fatigue before I can even like get to my point of where I'm like, I can still hold a handstand. So this is where the wall really comes into play. We can use the wall to like grip less and have to balance less, but we can still work on that endurance and pushing to our max holds. Now, if this is a goal of yours, whether you're doing the free hold or against the wall, you really want to make sure that you are pushing past that point of where you're comfortable holding a handstand. You really want to try and max out that time, and you really want to feel like you're working your shoulders. This is a workout. And from that point, you can kind of work out, like, I want you to be timing yourself. You can work out what your time is. You can work out what your average is, and then you can really try and push past that. What I try and do at the moment is I try and push my like last record, or like what I'm holding about, by about like 5-10 seconds. Sometimes I'm able to do that, sometimes I feel like I have to come down. And then what you're going to do from calculating that like seconds hold is you want to do a couple sets of them, and this can vary depending on your training and your other goals. Let's say if you had 2 other goals and you had a couple drills that you were working on for them, and then also improving your endurance, is you do about 3 to 4 sets, and you can combine this with your free holds and against the wall, just as an example. If you do have any comments or you're not sure like how many you should be doing, please do let me know in the comments below and I will try and help you all out. Another really good thing to note is I am only doing tummy to wall for this, and there's a reason for this. If you have seen a very old video of mine, I kind of like talked about why I don't like doing back to wall drills, and this is because it can compromise your shape. If you have your good technique and you know where that lies, it is so fine if you do like doing back to wall, but I would encourage you to try and do a tummy to wall for these. Another good thing to note is your technique might start to fail when you're doing these max holds. Not fail, but like you might start to lose some of that technique. And that is so fine because you're going to be trying to like focus all of your energy into your shoulders and trying to hold yourself up for that max endurance. So you will find that you like lose a little bit of that technique. As long as you're not doing like a huge banana back, you should be fine. Okay, the final thing I'm gonna say is there is another way that you can try and improve your endurance without actually doing endurance drills. And this kind of endurance is more of like a session, or if you're trying to build endurance towards trying to do a handstand act. And it is by decreasing the amount of rest time that you have in between doing drills. Now, as you could kind of tell, this is going to help you to be able to do more drills or more handstands, hence why it's good for when you're trying to do a handstand act in a shorter amount of time. Now, try not to take too big of a leap with how much you decrease your rest time. You really want to make sure that you are still able to do your drills, and then over time bringing it down. If that is a goal of yours of wanting to do a handstand act, and this is something you can improve your endurance for, is you can pick a set of like, maybe you're going to do 5 handstand skills in your act. You would try and replicate that into your training and try and decrease that rest time to however much time you're going to be spending in between each of those handstand skills in your act. So you might go from having a 2.5 minute rest down to 2 minutes. And then from 2 minutes, you might try and go to 1:45. You could either really break it down in 15 increments or 30-second increments. I really hope this video has helped you, and if you do have any questions about anything that I've talked about today, please leave them down in the comments below. I really love helping you guys with your handstand journey. Please like this video because it really shows your support, and hit that subscribe button to see more videos just like this, and the little notification bell to be notified anytime I release a new video, which is about every 2 weeks. And as always, I will see you all next time. Bye!